welcome back to Last Second Sports, where we are giving you our take down to the last second. And tonight, we have a sad yet special program putting an end and a cap on the 49ers season. And I had to do it with my guy, Jamal. He is one half of Jasper and Jamal. And listen, man, this was a hell of a season, a hell of a ride, Jamal. Happy to be doing this with you. Put a cap on the season, but it's over. It's over. I know we didn't expect it. We got to talk about it. We got to. It's therapeutic for us. So let's get right into it, my guy. How you doing, first of all, tonight?
Yes, sir. Once again, thank you for having me on. I appreciate it. Was able to come on with you just a couple weeks ago. That was breaking down just before the Cowboys game, I believe. And yeah, that was fun to do that. Always appreciate your perspective and, listening to you as well. Just chopping it up, whether it be on the spaces, here in the DM. So thank you always for the time having me on. And as you said, yeah, just a tough loss. I know I think you and I kind of agreed on this one. It was a game kind of dominated by the Rams, and I didn't expect that. Yet we still had a chance there at the end to be able to find a way to come through. I know the odds were stacked against us at one point in time, but we also had a lead at one point in time too, a double-digit lead. So to not be able to hold on to that was, a little brutal. As a Niner fan, this game definitely went away. I wasn't expecting it to go. But yeah, all in all, a solid season. From where we were at 3-5. Well, let me say this: from where we were at the beginning of the season, what they had sold us on to getting to 3-5, I don't think it looked good at that point. But to be able to turn it around and to get to an NFC Championship, I'll take those chances. I'd rather be in that game for a chance to get to the Super Bowl than not. So all in all, I'm still a little sad about it. It's been only almost about 24 hours, but all in all, I'm going to do my best not to complain too much. I want to try and be as positive as I can.
Yeah, man. There was a point in that game, Jamal, where it felt so close to being over and for the 49ers' favor. And it was like one of those times where I was like starting to get a little emotional. I'm like, all right, here we go. We're finally getting into the Super Bowl again. We're getting to right that wrong from 2019. And it wasn't meant to be. And you're right. I mean, I really felt like the Rams overall dominated that game. The fact that it was as close as it was shocking to me. And it's
right.
I don't know if it was arrogance or confidence or what have you, but I really didn't think any team could stop the 49ers run game. And they did a hell of a job selling out and stopping the run game. And we'll get into all that in a minute, but let's start off on a positive note because there is a lot to be excited about for this team going forward. And I don't want to just talk about all the bad things. We saw what happened, and we'll get into what happened. We'll break down everything, but there are reasons for optimism with this team. There are reasons to be excited. Reasons to look forward to the future. So what are some of those reasons of optimism for you?
Sure. Yeah. So the first reason of optimism for me, I'm going to say Brandon Aiyuk. I think, through the first 3 to 4 games of the season, really, you could almost argue almost a full third of the season, he wasn't a major part of the offense. And, a little spoiler alert, I think we could have gone to him more here in this NFC Championship game, and they should have. But through the first, about 5 games of the season, he wasn't a huge part of the offense. And I think, we talked about this all throughout the early part of the season with him, possibly not being, like a pro, still learning how to be a pro. And what does that look like, Monday through Saturday, not just on Sundays? What's he doing in practice? Is he practicing as hard? Well, it looks like, when they threw him the ball, he was able to make plays. And there were multiple times, especially early on in the season, where myself, I believe you as well, and multiple other people were saying, well, he's getting open. We heard a lot of things like yards per separation not being very high, and that being the reason you couldn't throw him the ball because he can't possibly there's no possible way he could make a contested catch. He's already proved that since coming into the league that he's able to do that. I pointed out the Arizona Cardinals game this year and last year that I saw him make super contested catches, whether it be a one-handed catch where he's boxing out the defender, turning upfield for, yards after the catch as well too. So I'd say him. Yeah, I think he ended this season with almost 900 some yards after not being much of a factor at all through the first about third of this, almost 6 full games. About 4 or 5 full games. So for me, I'm excited about the the trajectory that he's on as a pro. I liked what I saw from him as a rookie, and I think a lot of people were rightfully high on his ability. And I think when you look at this, when you look at the receiving core, you say, okay, Brandon Aiyuk, that's probably your more traditional wide receiver. So it's easy to come into the season like we did, and also maybe even now to say, oh, mate, that guy right there, that's going to be your wide receiver one, right? Because he's more traditionally. Well, if you dive more into the numbers, have more of a nuanced conversation about it, it's been very clearly Deebo Samuel. But I'm excited on the upside, the uptick in production that I've seen from Brandon Aiyuk. I like where he's going. And one thing I've been real high on that I think you probably would agree with me on, should we have Trey Lance be the starting quarterback going forward? I'm excited about what Brandon Aiyuk can do within the offense, but I'm also super excited about what he can do outside when plays break down as well too. And I think we've already seen that just a little bit within the Texans game as well. So I'm excited. I'm really high on his upside. I think I'm going to go out on a limb and say that I think he's going to have his 1,000-yard season next year.
I like it. James, he wants to know where I got the hat. Jamal and I were just talking about.
I'm with you, buddy.
Page. I don't know. I bought it so long ago, and at some point I did post the link on Twitter, but this was like 5-6 months ago, so I really don't remember. If I can find it, I'll post it, but I don't know, man. I wish I could tell you. I was trying to find it for Jamal, and I couldn't track it down. So I don't know. It's unique. We'll just say that.
Hey, if we find it, bro, I'll post it on my Twitter if I ever find it.
There we go. There we go. I like it. Yeah, I'm gonna stick with the receivers. I think another reason for optimism, and we have a lot of reasons, so we can go back and forth here. But another reason for optimism is Deebo Samuel. I mean, I don't know, man. I don't know about you, but being a fan of this team, and I posted it a couple weeks ago. I think it was in the Titans game. How frustrated I was with the way that Jimmy just had this aw shucks attitude after the game about everything. And I'm watching Deebo Samuel literally break down on the field. Like this man could not give any more in that game or any of these games. And to watch him play his heart out, taking that hit in that game, coming back, getting the touchdown, and just to break down the way he did, and watching the Rams celebrate, crying on the sideline, that was tough to watch, man. It really was. I feel for Deebo. I'm so happy that this kid's a part of the team going forward. And ultimately, a lot of people didn't know who Deebo Samuel was. And I'm happy for him that the world now knows. And that was one of my bold predictions going into the season. Not bold predictions, because I think we kind of all saw it, but just one of my predictions that people would know who Deebo Samuel was by the end of the season. Everybody would remember that name, and they do now. So that I'm very, very happy with. Very happy to see him get his shine. Happy that he should get a big contract this offseason, and ultimately excited to watch him also in an offense with Trey Lance. Is there anybody else you want to talk about?
Yeah, I actually want to piggyback off that Deebo Samuel there a little bit too. I think coming into this year, looking back on it, a lot of people would say, oh, he's more of this like I don't want to say one trick pony, but he's kind of like a gadget player. And, not every time people say gadget player, they're meaning it to be like in a negative connotation or even to fit a receiver inside of a box. But I do think that was what was going on with Deebo Samuel. Oh, he's really good at the jet sweeps and, end of rounds. Well, I think now after what we've seen this year, it might sound like a cop-out to some people, but I think honestly, we have to just say that Deebo Samuel is just a great football player. I tweeted out last week before the game, I said, I think this dude could play almost any position on the field, on either side of the ball. I don't think, he could rush a passer, sure. I understand that, but like he's maybe not going to be like a lineman or anything like that. But if you ask him to do probably anything on the field, I believe that he fully believes he could do it. I think that comes back to his mentality. I think it comes back to the way that he was raised. And just the ability to put the team on his back is so insane. I don't think you don't see that very often. And I didn't tweet this out, but I've been thinking about this since the Cowboys game. He just makes plays on the field that make me step back and say, you know what? We're watching potentially a legend. This dude's insane. We don't see people like this. And I think that, people like to say Percy Harvin and people like to say Anquan Bolden. And I've referenced those two guys as well. But what we've seen from him so far through this season is I do think that he has learned how to be, as I was saying earlier about Brandon Aiyuk, a pro's pro. And I think there's something real to that with rookies coming in and learning how to be a pro. And what I mean by that is learning how to condition, maybe when to, train a little bit harder, train a little bit less, fully dive into football in the offseason versus taking a break and, making sure your mentals are good too. I think that's all a real thing, whether you're hiring a personal chef. I believe all that's a real thing. And Deebo Samuel earlier in the season, I think it was just before the season started, he mentioned doing hot yoga. I think a lot of people kind of gloss over that, but he mentioned hot yoga being one thing that's helped keep him not only in shape, but it's like his tendons and things loose. And the fact that he referenced that meant to me, oh, this has worked well for him. Maybe it doesn't work well for everybody, but it's clearly worked out for him. His conditioning has been insane for the amount of usage that he gets. He doesn't ever really seem tired. He takes massive hits, as we saw this week, and he pops right back up. There's just not many people that are, one, built like him, which I do think is also why he's a rare breed, to be 5'11", 6 foot, a legitimate 220, and he very much looks like it. And I don't remember the last time a dude, well, I guess Nick Scott, but besides that, I don't remember the last time a dude really pops him when he's aware that a hit is coming, if that makes sense. So I wanted to agree with you on Deebo Samuel, give him his just due. I don't think we can understate or overstate really how well he was this season. But if I'm going to transition to another player, I'd say Aziz Al-Shaair. This is the type of a dude that before the draft, he was projected to be like either a late second or early third round pick, coming out of Florida Atlantic. I think it was Florida Atlantic University. I think that's where he went. And he ended up having some knee problems as well as the elbow injury as well too. So he ended up going undrafted. 49ers were able to take a flyer on the guy. And I don't think the talent with him has always been there, the ability to fly around sideline to sideline, which I think is kind of an underrated aspect of this defense with all three linebackers. I'm personally higher on Al-Shaair than I am Greenlaw, but what I've seen from Al-Shaair, just the ability to step in at middle linebacker when Fred Warner's had to step out, the ability to see him, calming down a Josh Norman in the Cardinals game when he's, doing his thing on the sideline. That was Al-Shaair that pulled him aside and talked to him. So for me, what I've seen from Al-Shaair this year is something that he looks like a savvy vet already, and I think he's one of the younger guys. I expect that he will get a contract here to stay with the team long term. I think he looks really, really good next to Fred Warner. I think he also, going forward, I think he can help Fred Warner look better, and vice versa. I think on both sides. I think that's a pair you'd like to keep together. I'm really high on his future going forward, and I'm just happy for the guy that he's been able to, one, be given his opportunity, because coming in as an undrafted guy, you're sitting behind other guys. You have to be able to prove something on the field to even make the roster. So he was able to do that. I'm excited about the upside of him. I think that he should have a similar, if not even slightly better season next year. And the last thing I'll say in regards to him, maybe he's not the hitter, the same type of hitter that this player was, but his favorite player growing up was Ray Lewis. And I'm not saying he's Ray Lewis by any means, but you can see with his mentality. I mean, I believe it was the first Rams game where I forgot the player he hit, but he messed up his helmet. I really like what I see from him. I like Al-Shaair. I think his future is also bright as well.
Yeah, he plays a lot like Quan Alexander, except for a lot more measured, right? He doesn't overrun gaps or anything like that, but he has that same physicality about his game, loves to hit. Side note, and I don't like doing this. I'm not going to get into the missed calls in the game and all that heavily, but that call was very, very suspicious. The taunting call. I mean, what could he have said right there? That to me was just one where I'm like, what? And it extended a drive. It was on a first down, so who knows what would have happened, but it definitely gave him a big first down and got the offense going. It was a weird deal. I don't know what he said in that situation. He definitely didn't gesture anything that would show taunting. So just an interesting thing. Bay Area Baller says, damn, man, I ain't got the same pep in my step today. I'm with you, Bay. That's why we're here. This is therapeutic for us. Chris says Ryans declined his second interview. Yeah, that's huge.
I didn't see that.
Yeah. So was it? I've done so many shows, Jamal. I don't want to say if it was or wasn't, but I could have sworn it was you or Jasper when you were on. We were talking about Ryan's getting another job, and one of you had said, "Well, um, maybe he would be the reason that he doesn't get another job because he doesn't feel like he's ready." I don't remember if
Yeah.
that was you guys or if that was another show, but
I don't know. I can't remember if that was us or not. I don't believe I said that, but I do think that's a very fair point. And
yeah,
it might not even be that he's not ready. I think it sometimes comes back to the fact that maybe there are certain guys who want to pounce at the right time.
yeah,
And if I'm him, you know, from an outside perspective, it does seem like this would be a good time to pounce. I think his stock is sky high. I think you're hearing a lot about Mike McDaniel as well, potentially going to the Dolphins. I know they had a second interview with him. I believe it was today as well, too. Whereas with DeMeco Ryans, I'd say, yeah, his stock is sky high, but if he's not interested in, you know, the jobs that are available, yeah, maybe he is the reason that he doesn't want to head out, and maybe he'll check into it next year as well too. I have to believe that even if we take a slight step back next year defensively, I have to believe he'd still be highly sought out after next year. I would think so. He's
yeah.
shown
I would too. I would, yeah, absolutely. Chris, let me give you some love real quick. All right, we got another one. That Niner guy says we have to make that throw. It's a team effort. It is what it is. You're referencing porn star Jimmy here. Really pisses me off. Pumped for the future and never hearing that crap again. Yeah, man. It's
yeah.
we can talk about it, right? Let's
Is that throw the Kittle one that he's speaking of? He's referencing.
well, it's I mean, I would imagine I would have what
I
other
think so
throw
too.
was just wide butt naked open. I mean, that
Oh,
that
yeah.
one was it right there. So yeah, it
How about
was.
2 weeks in a
It's
row?
yeah, I know. The first one was on Kittle and then the
Mhm.
second one's on Jimmy. That's ironic. But
Right.
yeah, man, I'm kind of with you. The whole, ah shucks, big smiles. The team seemed to rally around him. They definitely had his back, but at the same time, like for me as a fan, like I said, watching Deebo go out there and give everything he had, and then to just hear those press conferences from Jimmy was definitely frustrating for me as well. And we'll talk about his replacement, I'm sure, throughout this show. But let me show you some love. We appreciate you. Yeah, and actually let's just talk about it real quick because that's another reason for optimism. The
Yeah.
49ers traded up to draft Trey Lance, third overall. This was a kid that a lot of us were excited for. A lot of people didn't agree that he should have been the starter and would point to the fact that the 49ers made it to the NFC Championship as a reason that they were right about that. And maybe
Yeah.
they were. I still hold firm in my stance that if they had started Trey all season, that they could have made the playoffs. I thought this team was good enough that they could have overcome some of his inefficiencies and his mistakes as a rookie,
Right.
and that after a 17 game season, he would have been a little bit more prepared and a little bit more lethal than what Jimmy showed to be. But there's no way of knowing that for sure. That's strictly opinion. It's not
Mhm.
factual. The 49ers were able to make the NFC championship regardless, and definitely happy for that. But Trey Lance is a reason for optimism. Again, third overall pick. We know what he brings to the table: physical, big, strong arm, athletic, smart as hell. This is a kid that learned the offense in just a couple of weeks. And he seems to be a franchise player from a personality standpoint. Every
Right.
time I hear the kid talk, I'm more and more impressed. I just think he's really going to be that deal. I don't know, it's tough. It's a tough situation to be in because right now 49er fans are looking at it and they're expecting to be back there again next year with this roster.
Right.
But you never know what's going to happen. You never know what the future holds. All I can say is that I think he's going to eventually be very good. He's going to have his ups and downs next season, but I would say by the end of 2023 it will be clear cut that he was, if not the best quarterback out of this draft, second best quarterback out of this draft, and well worth that third overall pick to me. So that is a reason for optimism.
Yeah, it's absolutely a reason for optimism. I mean, I think you broke it down very clearly. The talent that this kid possesses is out of the world. If you look at his talent, you can say it's up there with the Patrick Mahomes. It's up there with the Josh Allens. And I think it's human nature when you hear someone say those words. It's, he's going to be that guy, right? He's going to be that guy. I'm not saying he will be that guy, but his talent says that I think that he can be up there in games with those guys, battling those guys straight up. I believe that. I fully believe that. I believe that you had tweeted it out, and I had been thinking about it as well, too, during the Chiefs-Bills game. Like, I hope Trey Lance is watching this game right now and, like, fully believing in himself that he can do that, because those two guys are single-handedly taking this quarterback position to another level right now. And Trey Lance, your ability to say that you can do the same thing. I totally agree with that. I think Trey Lance, I'm with you. I think if you go back to the 2019 season, when we go to the Super Bowl, the very next season, people are thinking we have every bit of a chance to get right back. But that's the crazy thing about football, is injuries are a real thing that absolutely happen. And if we, God forbid it, but if we have injuries next year and that derails certain things, there's a potential we could or couldn't miss the playoffs. I think that's what football does. People are hurt. Everybody's hurt after week one, like everyone in some sort of a fashion. Everyone gets hurt after week one, and you're playing the rest of the season, battling something. That's the nature of the game. And I think that sometimes people forget, or I don't want to say forget, that we as fans, we don't think about that, because naturally we're not the ones out there getting hurt. But I say that just to say that there's so much that has to happen in order for a team, one, to get back to the playoffs, to make the playoffs, and to also make a deep run as well. But based off what I've seen from this team, and when we are healthy, I have to believe that they have the ability to be there. I have to believe that they have a strong enough culture in that organization to be able to get back there. I'm really high on Kyle Shanahan and his scheme and what he can do with an average quarterback. I know a lot of people like to mention CJ Beathard and Nick Mullins, who I personally believe those guys are below average quarterbacks. And with the Jimmy Garoppolo, I think he is an average quarterback. And with an average quarterback, there's a cap, there's a ceiling to that. And I know I don't want to continue to go all over the place, but if you look back at this NFC Championship game, I have to fully believe that ended up being the difference in this game. Having a quarterback who is capped out at a certain level, and you have another quarterback who maybe he's not elite, he might not be a top 5 quarterback, but he's closer to that than Jimmy Garoppolo. And in my personal opinion, I do believe that the Rams decided to go out on their shield, which it was those two receivers. It was that third string tight end that came in, and it was the right arm of Matthew Stafford. So that being said, I do believe that, we'll see. And the pressure that Trey Lance has going into next year, I believe is really high. And I do think that it's slightly unfair, because it will be his first full year starting, should he start for the whole year. But I think that it's also fair to think that, we don't want to you don't want to put a number on how well he's going to do, because we don't know. We have seen the Patrick Mahomes come out and throw for 50 touchdowns. And I think that that's a blessing and a curse for a guy, because now it's okay. Well, you're moving off of Jimmy Garoppolo, who's a winner, and you're putting in Trey Lance. So he should be able to be better than Jimmy Garoppolo, right away. I think that there are ways that he might be better. He's definitely going to be able to extend plays better, because that's just his natural God-given ability. But then at the same time, I personally feel right now Jimmy Garoppolo is better in the quick game. Whereas 5 years from now, is that going to be the case? I don't know. I think in 5 years, he's going to continue to improve. I think right now, Trey Lance is better, pushing the ball down the field. We've already seen that in the Texans game. We saw go routes, and we saw one go route be completed by Garoppolo to Aiyuk this past week, yesterday. But I just think that there's a lot of nuance when it comes to these things. And that's why I like having platforms like this, where we can sit here and talk about it, where we can kind of break it down and say, yes, it's going to be potentially more explosive, but at the same time, there are going to be some misses as well too. But guess what? Little secret, every quarterback has some really bad misses. It's just when you miss them and maybe how frequently you miss them. The highs have to outweigh the lows. And that's what you see normally from a Patrick Mahomes. And I had tweeted this yesterday during their game. His ability to extend plays with his legs is amazing. And his ability to, make plays off schedule with Travis Kelce, with Tyreek Hill. Like, I personally believe that those three mentally are on a different level. They know what Patrick Mahomes wants to do, and Patrick Mahomes knows what they want to do. But at the same time, those things can also get in your way as well too. If you're starting to rely on that too much. And I saw multiple times Patrick Mahomes is scrambling behind the line of scrimmage and eventually get sacked, So it's one of those things where you have to be able to balance it out. I put that on coaching and I put that on the player as well to hold each other accountable.
Yeah, absolutely. KW2421 says our top needs in the offseason are cornerback, right tackle, safety, outside linebacker, wide receiver. We're not going to get into that tonight. We're going to have plenty of time for that, and I'm going to be watching a ton of film on these guys. I'm excited for that. I just was hoping it was going to wait 2 more weeks, but either way, we will get into all that. Personally, I think the 49ers need a second pass rusher, a second go-to pass rusher more than any of these positions. And they might need a center. Well, they do need a center regardless, but Mac is gonna mull over this offseason whether he's going to continue to play or not. He may not be back. So that could become priority number 1 right there, is getting a center. So, but I agree. I think all those are definitely positions in need. As far as what's most important, I think that's definitely up for debate for sure. Let me give you some love here. All right, let me catch up in the chat. I think we got one more. Do you think it's possible that Trey Lance has the potential to be a top 5 quarterback in the league? I'm sorry, I'm just excited. Jimmy is dead last quarterback rank, like 27. Yeah, listen, yes, he has all those abilities, no doubt about it. I personally, if he's a top 7 to 10 guy consistently, I think when you're top 10, you can be the reason that your team wins a lot of games. Right. So if he's in that area consistently with the likes of, some of the other reasons that we talked about to be optimistic, some of the other big time players on this team, the Bosas, the Fred Warners, Mitchell's coming into his own. We talked about Deebo, Trent Williams, all of them. Then yeah, I think the 49ers can be very good for a very, very long time. So yeah, I'm not going to say he's going to be top 5. Top 5. I mean, that's an elite area to be. And when you see guys like Joe Burrow out there, Herbert's coming into his own, Josh Allen, Mahomes, Watson, if he comes back, there's a lot of really, really good quarterbacks in this league. And, some of them are going to be retiring. The Brady's eventually, whether it's a year or 2, Rodgers in a few years. So, yeah, I think he can definitely creep into there. But if he's top 7 to 10 consistently, I'll take that. What about you, Jamal?
Yeah, 100%. And I like the way that you worded that, Fernando. You asked about the potential. I think that's the key word. That doesn't mean he's going to get there. That doesn't mean it. It also doesn't mean he won't get there. Potential means, does he have the tools to be able to put that together to be one of those guys? And I do firmly believe that he has the potential to be that. I've always said it like this, Fernando. I've always said with a guy like a Jimmy Garoppolo, that's a quarterback you can win with. The key word there is can. You can win with him. Things have to go, in my personal opinion, a certain way. With the 49ers, you need to be able to run the ball effectively. You need to be able to stay ahead of the sticks, stay on schedule. You don't want to get in obvious passing downs, especially behind the sticks. And yeah, I think ideally you can win with those guys. Whereas 49ers fans who, were excited about Trey Lance coming in, the potential there, we're hoping, and the key word is hope, we're hoping that Trey Lance turns into a guy that you win because of. And that doesn't mean you're always putting it on the right arm of Trey Lance. But sometimes games go that way, where your defense possibly is, reeling on a specific day. Maybe you have a situation where you've got Jaquiski Tartt and Ward out, and you have a running back that's running all over you, and you need your quarterback to be able to get you back into games. There's fumbles, and those things happen. That's what football is. And so in those types of games, you want the ability to have a quarterback that can say, you know what, hop on my back, hop on my right arm, hop on my left arm. We're throwing the ball 35 times today because we have to, and we're going to find a way to squeak a win out. You have to give props to Matthew Stafford for being able to do that. There's a lot of, things that go into that, but he's one of those guys that I believe is on the edge of that tier. Matthew Stafford, I don't think he's one of the best quarterbacks in the league. I think he's around 10, 11, maybe 12. But he's one of those guys that if you ask, can he do that? He's proven that he can. If we get it like that with Trey Lance at the minimum, if that's what we get with Trey Lance, that the picks that you traded to get this guy and the potential, especially in this next 2 to 3 year window, the league is going to be shaking in their boots. That would be insane for this, especially knowing that we're already a run first team as well too. So that's not even including his legs in that regard. So yeah, I think the key word there you said was potential. I do think that he has the potential. We'll see if they put it all together. This is go time for Kyle Shanahan. It's go time for Trey Lance.
Yeah, can you tap into that potential? Fernando, we appreciate it. Here's some love for that. My co-host coming in, making sure to remind us that Stafford's top 8. No, he's not, but that's a good effort by you, Mr. Lions fan.
I love that guy. He cracks me up. He's so funny.
Yeah, Rad's my guy for sure, man. He's got mad personality. I love him. Hold on. Okay, let me throw this up there. Yeah, only 34 likes. Come on, man. There's 139 of you watching. Give some likes. It helps the algorithm. Make sure you subscribe if you've not done so, and make sure you subscribe to Jamal's channel as well. The link's in the description, and show us some love for sure. We appreciate y'all. But all right, let's get on to this next one here.
Yeah.
So we started out very, very positive, but now we got to be honest. We got to, like I said, this is a therapy session, not only for us, but for you in the chat as well. Make sure that you give us your reasons why the game went the way that it did, but who's to blame? Like if you were doing blame pie, what's your percentage when you watch that game, when you think about that game? Who are you looking at? Like, where did your eyes go as to the reason that the 49ers lost that game?
I don't want this to sound like a cop-out, Jesse. I really don't, because I do think that Kyle Shanahan has to bear some of this blame as well too. But I do think this was a full team effort loss as well too. I truly believe that. I'm one of the guys, I don't know if I can say this any clearer than this, but I do think that watching a football game and using the eye test is huge. And I don't want people to forget that or miss out on that. But I also think that there's another side where you can look at the box score and it can lie to you. And sometimes you can look at the box score and it tells you the truth too. And I definitely think that this was one of those games where you can say, oh, wow, if you're any team in the league, you know you're playing the 49ers, especially in this whole season, the past couple seasons, how do you want to stop them? Every single team, all of them are going to tell you they want to stop the run. If you can do that, you put the ball in the hands of Jimmy Garoppolo, you put the game in the hands of Jimmy Garoppolo, and you're going to hope that he can't beat you. And we've seen multiple times that he hasn't been the reason that he beats you. And that's the key difference. Usually he's not the reason that you win a game. He can be a part of the reason, but he's not the sole reason or the main reason. And I think that this game very clearly showed that. I think when you have Deebo Samuel, running the ball for 7 times and only picking up 26 yards, you'd say, okay, congrats to the Rams. They did a great job limiting what he could do in the running game. If you look at Elijah Mitchell and you see that he ran the ball 11 times for a total of 20 yards, you say, wow, I would have thought that would have been the 49ers who were stifling the run that way. And then you get one run from Garoppolo for 4 yards. And then we obviously saw on a key 4th down, Juszczyk runs the ball and gets 0 yards. Or that was actually 3rd down, and we ended up punting after that. So I think it goes on the full team. We all saw what happened to Jaquiski Tartt dropping, the potential interception as well. Those are missed opportunities. But when I look over the course of this game, I've got to say this is a full team effort. The one other thing I would add too that I didn't like, and I'll transfer this over to you after this, I didn't like that they didn't use Brandon Aiyuk more. If you go back to week 10? Week 10, we played them, and that was Deebo Samuel. That was the get right. I call that the get right game, 31-10. And I thought you could argue that was our best full 60 minutes of play throughout the course of the season, especially offensively. I think you could argue that Jimmy was able to fit the ball in some tight windows. That was a Deebo Samuel game. But I think in week 18, when we're playing them, to go to the playoffs, it was Brandon Aiyuk that I saw get some drives started, whether it be the end of the first half, which led to our 3 points there before the half, whether it be the end of the game, end of the first, before we head to overtime, the 4th quarter. You're seeing him drive, get some drive starts, catching 25-yard ends. I saw the same thing this week as well too. I think he had 4 catches? Yeah, 4 catches for like 70 yards. Didn't end up getting a touchdown because his momentum took him out of bounds on that go route. But I said this in week 18. Aiyuk continues to be the best number 11 on the field. He's been cooking Darius Williams since then. I have no idea why they didn't continue to go to him. Every time he would run a 10-yard dig, cooked every time, cooking him every time since week 18. So I was a little shocked, whether it be digs, whether it be slants, that they didn't continue to go to him. I know that Deebo Samuel is the focal point of this offense, and I totally understand that, and he needs to continue to be that. He should continue to have, a high usage. He should see the ball multiple times. I totally understand that. 10 times, whether it be running the ball and receiving the ball 10 plus times. Totally understand that. But I also think you have to be able to take advantage of matchups as well too. And I've been banging the drum. You can go on my Twitter. I've posted pictures about it. I've been ranting and raving about Brandon Aiyuk's ability in one-on-one coverage, especially from what I've seen against Darius Williams, for him to exploit that. And I don't think Kyle Shanahan did enough of that. I specifically was looking for that on our last possession before Jimmy Garoppolo threw the pick. I was looking for that on first or second down to go back to that bread and butter, because it has been working since week 18.
Yeah, absolutely. It's funny because the chat's throwing out a bunch of different things. We saw defense, saw Jimmy, saw Kyle, saw Jaquiski Tart, saw Grant Cohn, saw everything in the chat.
Grant wasn't there.
Yeah, right. So yeah, Grant wasn't there. It's his fault. Yeah, man, I don't think it's a cop-out to say that it was a team loss, because here's what I'll say, and I'll get into specifics, right? But
Sure.
I said this immediately after the game, and emotion riding high in the moment, what do I think? And in that moment, I genuinely looked at it and said, I felt like the Packers game was the ultimate team win.
Yeah.
And this game was the ultimate team loss.
Yeah.
And the reason that I felt that was, I remember tweeting out at halftime that, man, the defense is playing, not even at halftime, it was like second quarter. I'm like, defense looks like crap. They look like
reeling.
Yeah, I think I said dog shit. Defense looks like dog shit is what I said. And I meant that. At that time, yes, they hadn't given up a lot of points, but it was not looking good. They were on the field for a long time. There was multiple drop passes. It was not looking good for the defense. Now, the end result was really good. They only gave up 20 points. And if you told me going into that game that they would give up 20 points, I would have said the 49ers absolutely win that game. No question about it. But they gave up a lot of big third down and longs. And this showed up in the Tennessee Titan game. This showed up in the second Rams game, week 18. And it showed up again this game. Yeah, the Colts game. So third down and long is an issue. They've got to get that under wraps. And I believe that if DeMeco's here, and hopefully he is, that will get under wraps. We can talk about the Tart drop pick. There was still a lot of time left in that game. I can't say for sure that pick would have wrapped it up. Now, it would have probably helped some of that momentum for sure. And who knows what happens from there. But to say
that drive led to points. They ended up getting points on that drive.
Yep, you're right. So yes, that would have been a big swing, especially if they were able to go down and get a field goal. If they got a touchdown, you're right, it is a wrap. But you just don't know what's going to happen. But that definitely was a big play and a big swing that hurt the 49ers. We can talk about the penalties, the Aziz Al-Shaair taunting play. I don't know if it was taunting. I didn't see it, but if it happened, like, that was silly. Jimmy Ward with his late hit on Odell Beckham, or his high hit, I should say. Yeah. That was childish to me. He talked about it after that first Rams game, that he owed Odell Beckham a hit like that.
Right.
To do it in that moment, I thought was extremely it was selfish. I mean, there's no other way to put it. I think it was a selfish moment. Go ahead.
And that's what I can't defend, because I was gonna defend that play, because when I'm watching in real time, I didn't think that he hit him helmet to helmet on purpose. I really didn't. But based off of his comments, I can't defend that. He had mentioned wanting to get back to him. I cannot defend that. And yes, on one end, I can say that I don't think that it was intentional that he hit him helmet to helmet. But at the same time, the way Odell caught that ball, he was going down. So if he's going down and you're going, I don't know if it was just fully his momentum going, but he was going full speed as well and going down. And that's what led to the helmet on helmet. So I can't sit here and say for sure that I thought it was on purpose, but I also am not going to sit here and defend it as well too, because he did talk about it. So that's one of those plays where, you hate to see that, especially in that moment. That's free extra yards. we were reeling already at the time. It's disappointing. That was disappointing.
Yeah, absolutely. And KW says, why not go to Kittle and Aiyuk and Jennings on 3rd and 2? Yeah, that was another thing. And Kyle talked about it. He regretted those play calls, and he wishes he could have them back. There was some weird play calls in there. So there was a lot of things that we can point to. But if I'm going to give the biggest blame, and I don't want to have a total cop out, because like I said, I do think it was a ultimate team loss. The week before was the ultimate team win. But if I'm going to give the biggest blame, I do. I have to give it to Jimmy, and I have to give it to Kyle. And I'm probably going to go 50. I would go higher for Kyle. And a lot of people don't want to do this because, it's talking bad about Kyle in this community is like so frowned upon for whatever reason. And I think it's because I think it's fair. He obviously brought us out of a dark time, and I love him for that. But to say that this guy doesn't have his gaffes that's not fair either. Kyle Shanahan, this is going back to the 2017 Super Bowl with the Falcons. In his last 7 postseason games, including that Super Bowl, his teams in the fourth quarter have put up 9 points. Jamal, 9 points, no touchdowns in the last 7 postseason games that he's coached. That is 2 different quarterbacks. That is 2 completely different teams. And really, that's 3 different rosters because, yes, it's still the 49ers, but this roster compared to 2019 is different. So at some point, like, that's a bit of a trend. And when you give up 3 massive fourth quarter leads during this time span, yes, we can say, hey, Jimmy screwed up, because Jimmy himself, I mean, if you look at Jimmy in the fourth quarter of that Super Bowl, in the fourth quarter of this NFC Championship, he's a combined 6 of 20, 66 yards, and 2 interceptions. He has not been good either. But the fact that he also had that same gaffe with Ryan, that tells me that this is also on Kyle Shanahan. And Jimmy's gone. Jimmy's not going to be on this team going forward. So there is some blame that has to go on Kyle, and Kyle has to own that and figure that out, because Kyle is the leader of this team going forward. Jimmy's gone, Kyle's not. And so Kyle has to take that L, and he has to figure out how to overcome it. When in the last 3 years, teams are 19-2 when they have a double-digit lead in the fourth quarter, and those two in the loss column are San Francisco in the Super Bowl and in the NFC Championship. Right. Man, that's a lot. So for me, those would be the 2 biggest guys that I would blame. But again, I think it was an ultimate team loss. I really do. There's a lot that we can point out. There's a lot that we did point at. But if I'm giving the biggest blame, it would be those 2 for sure.
Yeah, I have to think that that's fair. And to your point, I saw this tweet yesterday that I'll just read too. So over the past 3 seasons, the 49ers are now 3-2 with a 10-plus point fourth quarter lead in the playoffs. The rest of the league is 23-0. The 2 losses, of course, were to the Super Bowl and then the NFC Championship game. So to your point, I pride myself. I do my best on being as objective as I can as possible. I want to be fair. I already know what Jimmy Garoppolo is. He is an average quarterback. I also know what I think of Kyle Shanahan and his scheme, and I think it's top tier. I think he's amazing. But I think we have to be fair here. If we're going to be fair, we have to include Kyle Shanahan in that. He does have to own some of the blame. If not, I think I'm with you. He's got to own the majority, or I would say more than Jimmy Garoppolo. And that's just because I already know what Jimmy Garoppolo is. I do. But in that same regard, I'll do my best in fairness and in objectivity. I have to give the Rams credit for stopping it. And where I give them credit for stopping it, and I give Kyle Shanahan the pushback for not being able to take the risk. Sometimes if you're going to lose, at least lose trying. And I think he got a little bit conservative when we've seen him do that multiple times. He continued to run through the A gap. I wanted to see him push the ball and be a little bit more outside zone as well. Even the jet sweeps, use Deebo Samuel on the edges. I thought he got a little too conservative and started going back to his, I guess we'll call it bread and butter, but they were all over that. The Rams were all over that. So like I said, in objectivity, I want to be fair and give the Rams credit, because I had been saying for weeks now that the Rams are soft. I didn't think that they had an inside of them to get tougher. I really didn't. I said, there's no way. The 49ers are the tougher team. We're going to be able to run on you. And I didn't even consider the fact that they would find a way to stop it. But they did. So in that regard, I give them credit. But where Shanahan – go ahead.
No. I was just going to say I completely agree with that. Let me get to this super chat just real quick. I know that I addressed it earlier, but I want to give it some love real quick. And then I want to talk about this next comment, because this is something that I actually talked about earlier with Niner Nate, who's going to be on the show tomorrow. Looking forward to that. But I want to get your thoughts on it. So let me give this comment love real quick before. I sniped you, Jamal. I sniped you.
Oh, no, you're good. Just the last thing I wanted to say, just in regard to this KW comment.
Yeah, go ahead.
Why not go to Kittle, Aiyuk, or Jennings? I have to shout out my guy, Javier Vega. He was the first person I heard say this, and I agree 100%. He said this was a game where the coach is handcuffed by his quarterback, and the quarterback is handcuffed by the coach as well. So we can dive into that maybe later on, but I fully agree with that comment. If Kyle doesn't fully trust Jimmy Garoppolo, he's going to get tight, and he's going to hand the ball off. I'm with you, KW. Kittle, Aiyuk, Jennings, they've been nails, especially on third down. They're nails. Those are great playmakers, and I'm comfortable getting the ball in their hands. But if Kyle has even a little bit of distrust and he gets a little tight, I think that's the difference in the game.
Yeah, I think that's a great comment by Javi, and Javi's my guy for sure. It's true. I mean, they both handcuff each other at the end of the day. But this comment here, not the first half so much. It says Lance is the next Deshaun Watson, which that's cool. I'll take that for sure. He's got a much stronger arm than Deshaun, but he is not ready to be a starting quarterback. We should bring in Rodgers. Okay,
I'm with you, Jesse.
I want to be respectful about this, because I appreciate the comment and I hear it a lot. And so as I say this, don't think that I'm pointing this directly at you, Jose. I appreciate you for tuning in. But this is just to the Lance isn't ready community. Two things I would say to that. One, how do we know? How do we know that Lance is not ready? As far as I know, to watch Lance grow the way that he did, you look at that first snap in the preseason to the last snap in that Texans game, and to watch him grow literally play by play. This kid, every time he played, he got better and he looked better. To look as good as he did in that Texans game, and I get it, we can say it's the Texans, but let's be real. We had a starting quarterback in Jimmy Garoppolo that, to me, didn't look good for a full game for the final 8 weeks of the season. And the only time he did was against the Falcons, who ranked 23rd in overall pass defense. The Texans at least were top 20. So I
believe they were top 10. I think they were 10.
Well, they may have been going into that game. It was something like that. But either way, the pass defense was actually pretty good. And Trey Lance was thrown into a situation where it was must win, regardless of the team. We see, the Colts lost to the Jaguars with the playoffs on the line. So you never know what's going to happen. The fact that he was able to come in, look way better throughout that game, shows me that this kid is probably more than ready if he's given the time. He's already sat for 2 seasons, final season in college, this season. How long are you going to put the kid on ice? And then the next question is if you don't agree with me that he's ready, that's fine. Everybody has their own opinion. How can he get ready by sitting?
Yeah.
What is he going to do in the next year by sitting and wasting that rookie contract and not bringing guys back that could help this team stay relevant for a long time so that we can pay Aaron Rodgers $40 million? What is it that he can do to get ready other than playing?
Yep.
I don't understand it. So that's where I'm at. What about you, Jamal? You have anything you want to add to that?
I've always said the same thing. I believe I was in a space last night and someone was saying the same thing. And to your point, I've always asked, well, what is ready? I always ask this, what does ready look like to you? I always have to. Is Trey developed enough to start? I'm not so sure.
So
Yeah,
another,
but my
see,
question,
a lot of people have this feeling. So again,
right?
it's not directed just towards y'all. We
No.
appreciate the comment. A lot of people have this. I just have the question back to you, and I think you're going down a
Mhm.
great path here, Jamal. Go ahead.
Yeah, I mean, I appreciate the comment. You said I'm not so sure. We're not sure. We don't know for sure. From what we've seen, I'm confident in his ability to continue to develop. Absolutely. We don't know for sure he's going to come out next year guns blazing from week one and go for 3 touchdowns in week one and end the season with 30 touchdowns and 10 interceptions. We don't know that. I don't know. But I'll tell you this. I'll say this, Southpaw and Jose, and for anyone who's questioning, I do feel that Trey Lance is potentially good enough right now to give this 49ers team 20 touchdowns, 12 picks. That's what Jimmy Garoppolo did. He threw for 3,800 yards, 1,900, literally 51% of his yards were yards after the catch. Guess what? Those still apply to him. There's different ways you can get the receivers your ball. I got no problem with him getting the yak yards. I just personally feel that Trey Lance is good enough potentially to give us 20 touchdowns, 12 picks. And that's not even including what he potentially could do with his legs. That doesn't mean he's going to get us, 10 touchdowns with his legs as well. But there will be, I would venture to say there's going to be multiple times next year where a play breaks down and we shouldn't get anything on it. And he's going to give us an extra possession by picking up a first down. And people don't like to necessarily talk about that in the grand scheme of a whole season. But if you can go back and look at this time next year, we're looking on the season and saying, oh, wow, if we weren't able to pick up a first down here, a first down there, that potentially could have been the difference in the game. So I'm high on Trey Lance's upside. And then I, like you, Jesse, what does it mean to not be ready enough? What does that look like to each person that says that? Because I think that we all look through football with our own particular eyes, with our own lens. That's all we can do. And that's why I love talking to differing opinions. And I might get passionate about things, but I never really get that mad at someone's opinion because they're looking at it through their own lens and their own eyes. And I can appreciate and understand that. So that being said, that's when I bring up the question, what does that look like? And at what point, and this is what I asked last night, and I've been asking for a while now, at what point does his development off the field cap out then if we feel he's not ready? At what point does it cap out and he needs to see the field to continue to improve? The last thing I'll say here is Josh Allen wasn't Josh Allen until he was Josh Allen, right? So we would have never known if he never sees the field. Who else? Carson Wentz, before he got injured, before what's happened over the past couple of seasons, he wasn't Carson Wentz until he was Carson Wentz and had an MVP season. Patrick Mahomes wasn't Patrick Mahomes until he was Patrick Mahomes. And that came out right away in his second season. And I'm not saying that Trey Lance is going to be that, but you're absolutely right. You're totally fair to be unsure. Absolutely. And we don't know. And that's business. That's what happens when you trade up to number 3. The 49ers have shown us that they're willing and they're choosing to bank on the upside of this kid. They also know more about him than we do because we're just getting news. I've never had a chance to talk to him, but those guys have. So they're able to see him in practice every day. They're able to see him in the building. They're able to see how he's improving. They're able to see his ability to ingest the playbook and how he's further along than they had expected originally. They're able to see all of that stuff. They're able to see his work ethic, all that stuff. We're not able to. So it's totally fair for you to say you're not sure. Totally get that. And that's why we're not the ones in the building making the decision. So I'm like Jesse. I would just turn it back and say, what does that mean to not be ready? And at what point do you need to see the field to continue to improve?
Yeah, absolutely. And I'll try to help you guys out during the offseason. I was able to interview his quarterback coach 3 times last year, and I would love to do it again. So hopefully I'll be able to get Coach McAvoy on to talk about it. And he was very honest throughout the whole process, by the way. A lot of people are like, oh, no, he's capping. He's trying to pump up his guy. No, I mean, everything that he said throughout those interviews either played out at some point during the season or was told to us and confirmed by Kyle Shanahan himself.
Right.
So, we're going to get some good answers into what's going on, what they're working on, what they would like for him to improve on this offseason, and how they're going about that. So I'm excited to get those answers from him as well. So stay tuned for that. We'll definitely be doing that at some point during the offseason. But yeah, there was another comment there, and I'm just going to get through the super chats, and then I'll show you all love with one. Julio says, what up, Jesse? What's up, Julio? Who's to blame? Man, I have the utmost respect for Kyle, and I still believe that he's a great coach. That's true. I mean, you can believe that, and also come down on him a little bit. But this one is on Kyle. Their D deserves credit for sure, it does. But we blew a fourth quarter lead with 3 timeouts. Yeah, and that's the other thing. I'd have to say that Sean McVay looked like he was pressing. He looked like he was pressing. He looked like he didn't want to be there. He's the one grasping at straws, blowing timeouts, trying to figure out if there's a way that he can win a challenge here or there. He looked like he was panicking, and ultimately their team was more poised and was able to come out with a victory. Miguel says, I blame Kyle for knowing what Jimmy G is and still playing him. He traded first round picks for a QB that has a higher ceiling than Jimmy. Yeah, I was having this conversation with my co-host today, actually, about this, and he started laughing at me. He didn't believe me when I said that the 49ers drafted Solomon Thomas and didn't really even scout Mahomes and Watson. And this goes back to, I mean, let's look at all the outs that he had to not have Jimmy on this team. One, he could have kept Colin Kaepernick when that whole thing was going down, right? He chose not to when he came into the team. Colin wasn't his type of quarterback, he said. They moved on. Okay, cool. There's that. Then there was, okay, well, we could look at Patrick Mahomes and Deshaun Watson, and they decided, wow, dude, come on. Yeah, I do need mods. Sorry, guys. I'm so far behind on the comments. I apologize. I have one mod. It doesn't seem like he's in there today. I apologize. I'm way behind on the comments. I just now saw it and got rid of it. Anyways, so yeah, they could have looked at Deshaun Watson. They could have looked at Patrick Mahomes. They chose not to because they had their eyes set on Kirk Cousins. And then they gave up on the Cousins dream and traded for Jimmy G. Okay, cool. Well, after you saw what Jimmy G was and you lost in a Super Bowl, you had a chance to get Tom Brady. You chose not to go that route. And then you go and get Trey Lance, and you chose to sit him all year. So there was so many options to move on from Jimmy G. At the end of the day, they chose not to move on from Jimmy G. And, that has to fall on Kyle. So if he felt like he was super limited, then at the end of the day, he chose to play him regardless with those many outs. So did I get him, guys? Let me see. Let me make sure I got him. Got that comment there. Hold on a second. Just want to make sure I got all the comments, that I'm caught up. I know. Sorry, guys. I don't know why people feel the need to come in here and just be super out of pocket. KW2421 with another one says Lance is too cautious, needs more confidence. Well, I mean, that kind of showed up in his game, and I talked about it. A lot of people are like, well, he's a big, strong, athletic quarterback. And I said he's actually the type of guy that will try to keep his eyes downfield and make a play there. And unlike Jimmy to me is a guy that's very
conservative.
Jimmy has a conservative skill set,
play style.
But he plays very, very wild sometimes.
You're right.
To where Trey Lance has a very athletic, big arm. Like you look at him and go, oh my gosh, he must take a lot of chances. He actually doesn't. He plays very, very conservative. So
that's fair.
Anyways, Lance is too cautious, needs more confidence. So that addresses that one. Cookie Monster says, if Trey is a bust, are we going to miss Jimmy? Or better yet, is the team going to miss Jimmy? I mean, at that point, it's tough to say. I don't know, what the future looks like. But if Trey's a bust, then that's going to be hard for Kyle to recover from that one. And then I think this is the last one. Mike says, Jesse, thank you, my friend, for a fantastic job this year. Can't wait till next year. Love your show, man. As always. Well, stay tuned. We started this thing last offseason. We brought you a ton of stuff. We plan on doing it again this offseason and keep it going. Let's see. All right. I think I got that clown, and I don't see anybody else in here. I'll try to stay on top of the chat, guys. I apologize. And then one last one. Reginald says, if Lance is not ready, Niners need a top 10 quarterback now. I mean, do they, though? They were really a play away from going to a Super Bowl. They just need somebody that's like
a little bit better than average.
Yeah, better. I mean, better than average. Exactly.
Yeah, I think
So they,
that's just one of those things. I just want to say this real quick. I think a lot of people can get offended by saying that Jimmy Garoppolo is an average quarterback. Saying he's average is literally saying he's good. An average quarterback is good. An average quarterback isn't very good. That would be an above average quarterback. So
right.
we're just saying that there's a cap to the abilities that Jimmy Garoppolo has shown on the field. He's not going to be the sole reason to carry your team to a victory. Those types of guys are reserved for the Patrick Mahomes, the Josh Allens who's entered the stratosphere. Russell Wilson has been like that. Maybe he's not, he wasn't like that this year. Aaron Rodgers has shown the ability to do that, although we've done a lot of good things against him in the playoffs. There's not everybody can be those guys. It's actually more, you're going to see the Jimmy Garoppolo's guys more than you're going to see the Aaron Rodgers. There's more of those guys that are Jimmy Garoppolo's in the league where they're more average than there are at the top tier level. So I don't want people to ever get it twisted that we're saying Jimmy Garoppolo is like sucks or he's really, really bad. We're not saying that. We're just saying that he's average. And sometimes really when it gets to the playoffs and when it gets down to the Super Bowl, when it gets to the NFC championships, there are times and there are plays where you need a guy to really, really step up, or you might need that type of quarterback who can show up really big in those big moments like that to put you over the top. And I kind of tend to side on the side that Jimmy Garoppolo may not be fully that guy unless things go perfectly.
Yeah, he's a starting level quarterback. He's a starter in this league. And we talked about it. If you're a top 10 guy, you're a difference maker. Outside of that, sometimes you can get into the top 15 and be a difference maker, but really most of those guys are just kind of a part of things. So it's not a knock on him. It's just the facts. Julio says, shout out to the gentleman next to you, Jesse. Huge fan, bro. Cannot wait to see you on with Grant this week. As far as Lance goes, I've always been pro Trey. Well, that's good. I mean, you should be. He's the future. Whether you like it or not, he's going to be here for sure. Jamal, I think I don't know if you know. Yeah, you know Keneal. There we go. Jesse,
Keneal, that's my guy.
Yeah, I love Keneal. He says, what's up, Jamal? Jamal, man, as a fellow site guy, yep, you guys are. How do you think the season will help Trey on a mental level entering next season? That's a very good question. What are your thoughts on that?
Keneal, I'm very, you know what? I'm so grateful that you asked me this question because I was thinking about this a couple minutes ago, actually. You know what? So I think a lot of people forget that at North Dakota State, Trey did redshirt. He did sit behind I believe it was Easton Stick at the time for a year. So in that realm, I'd never struggled with the fact that he would sit this year. I didn't want him to sit. I wanted him to be the starting quarterback for the season. I expected him to start right away just because I think that the talent level, the gap between what we could get potentially from Garoppolo versus what we could get from Trey Lance, I don't think it's that stark. It would look different for sure. But with the fact that he did sit this year, I think it's going to help him tremendously. He's going to, I'm not saying he's going to come out guns blazing or anything like that, but mentally he's going to understand and know the playbook more. And the fact that he was able to see Jimmy Garoppolo and the fact that we were able to get to an NFC championship, he was able to see playoff football. He was able to see a struggle in the first half of the season where we were struggling with our identity. And then at some point, whether it was week 9, week 10, really when we played the Rams, 31-10, we seemed to really hit our identity, hit our stride on both sides of the ball. So I think really it's so interesting because I think in a situation like this, he got everything that you could ever want in a season. He got the struggle from the beginning. He got the highs going on a win streak. He got, being able to see a tough loss against the Tennessee Titans that I think many of us, if not all of us, think we shouldn't have lost that game. He got to see us go. He got to see Jimmy Garoppolo go score a touchdown in a minute 27 to send the game to overtime against the Rams. He got to see some playoff action. So from that regard, I do think that it was nice that he was able to sit. He's going to be able to be better prepared. He knows what he wants. I think he's going to know things that he wouldn't have understood vet-wise because he didn't have a vet in front of him possibly. So from that regard, those are the things that I think that maybe they get a little underrated, but those are the things that from a mental standpoint, he's going to go into the starting job next year, maybe a little bit more confident in what he's seen.
Yeah, man. I don't know. This dude's persistent. I've blocked like 4 of his accounts already. Jeez, buddy, like get out of my face. Hold on, let me see.
I'm sorry that you're going through that, bro. I've always said that I think it says more about other people than it does about you. And They need a little bit of attention, no matter what kind it is.
Yeah, it is what it is. It's crazy that like over football, people get this out of control over an opinion that you might have about a football game that they're not involved in. But it's weird behavior. Niner by Nature says, I think once Trey fixes his footwork, we can trust what he sees. He's going to be a top 5 QB next year. Well, man, that's bold. I don't know if I'll go that far, but that's bold. I like it. I like it. Not getting Stafford was a mistake. Perfect fit for us. Yeah, I mean, I don't know. It's definitely a mistake this year, right? Like on the surface, if they could have gotten him, but did they? I don't know, man. I just don't know if he was worth everything that they gave up for him. Now, if they win a Super Bowl, it's always worth it. I just think they gave up a lot. I really do. Whatever. Does this channel? No, dude. Why? What are you talking about? About to ban you too. Yeah. Anyways, so I don't know, man. That's it's tough. Winning a Super Bowl is always worth it for sure. But at the end of the day, like that's a lot to give up for a guy that is going to cost a lot of money in the upcoming years. It is what it is. So
yeah, if he continues to stay healthy and he continues to produce for them, then it's going to continue to look great. And I think if you were to ask any Rams fan, anybody in that organization, if they win even just this one this year, they're going to tell you it was a success. They're going to say it was a success. They're going to say, we got a championship. This is what we went all in for. For that, I won't harp on them. That's fair.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, let me give all those super chats some love. We appreciate you. Gosh. All right. Let's get on to this next topic. Was the season a success? Jamal, this one we can go many different ways with, but overall, do you think this season was a success? Why or why not?
That's a great question. And I'm not even going to lie to you, Jesse. I've been struggling with this question this whole time. Was it a success? It depends on how you view the season, I guess. I think it really comes down to that, because at the beginning of the season, and like I mentioned in the intro when you first introduced me, this team they had sold us a bill of goods that this team was good enough to go back to the Super Bowl. And they were close. So in that regard, you could say it was a success. But at the same time, going 3-5 at the beginning of the season, I think changed a lot of people's perceptions. It changed the way I felt about certain things. I've been on record on Croc's show saying, there were certain people that needed to step up. We were missing a certain type of leader. I've been critical of Jimmy Garoppolo's, some of his leadership style, not everything, because I do think that he is a solid leader and there are more ways to lead than one. But I think at certain times we've needed somebody who was willing to kind of get in somebody's face a little bit, tell them that 3-5 didn't matter. Well, guess what? They were able to turn that around. So in that regard, you could say, yes, it was a success, but I don't want to say that it was Super Bowl or bust, but that's what it was proven to us to be. For me, in my personal opinion, that's got to be the only reason, or not the only reason, but a huge, huge reason in why Jimmy Garoppolo was still the starter after making those trades to pick up Trey Lance. What's the point of sitting him if you don't think you can't get to the Super Bowl with this guy? Yes, there's multiple ways you can get to a Super Bowl. It doesn't have to be with your quarterback, throwing for 5,000 yards, because we almost did that with Jimmy this year. So there are multiple ways, and I think Kyle Shanahan trusted his scheme, his ability, and his playmakers, and that's absolutely fair because the playmakers are elite. You've got Deebo Samuel, Juszczyk, Kittle. We have elite players there. So from one end, you could say yes, it was a success. But for me, I've got to think, if I had to give you one just straightforward answer rather than looking at it from multiple sides, I'll say no, just for the simple fact that they had made it seem that this was a Super Bowl or bust team, and they got close. So it's splitting hairs.
Yeah, absolutely. Eric Dane says Trey will be playing with a Pro Bowl left tackle, wide receiver, and tight end. Yeah, that's always a good start for sure.
And a wide receiver with much more upside too.
Yeah, and then Max in Paris says, excited to watch Trey next year. Still love Jimmy. Yeah, listen, I mean, that's the thing, right? Like, I feel like a lot of people were like, it has to be one or the other. But if you love the team, there's nothing wrong with that, man. There's literally nothing wrong with that. I'm trying to go through and block people like crazy, guys. I apologize. Like I said, I've said this in the past though. You have to want to be a mod. So if you want to be a mod so that this doesn't happen in the chat, that'd be fantastic. Reach out to me. Last second sports, the number 2 at Gmail, and give me your YouTube link, your YouTube channel link, and then I can make you a mod. I'd love to have as many mods in here as possible because it's really hard to keep up on it. And that's what it is. So, all right, let's I'm
sorry, Jesse.
For me, no, you're good. You're good.
Bad guys out tonight.
No, it's not your fault, man. It's the end of the season, and I've gone pretty ham on Twitter, so I'm sure people are not liking it too much. But for me, the season definitely was a success, and the fact that it's not easy to get this far. It's not easy to make it this far. It's not easy to take a team from 3-5 and get all the way to the NFC Championship. But on the flip side of that is, I believe that this was kind of what some of us expected. This is what the team told us prior to the season started, prior to the 3-5 start. They told us this was a Super Bowl caliber team. I picked the team to go 12-5. So I expected big things from this team. So when they started 3-5, yes, I definitely was like, oh man, like it's not working out. They're not going to make the playoffs, all of that. But they ultimately did kind of what was expected of them. So for me, was it successful? Yes, in the sense that it's hard to make it here. And to be a Final Four team is always a success. But on the flip side of that is they blew a major opportunity. When when the Bengals won that game early on, Jamal, I text my buddy, I'm like, oh my gosh, we're going to win the Super Bowl. And this is not anything against the Bengals, but they're not the Chiefs. Right. And I felt like the Bengals were very, very beatable. And I felt like the Rams being beat 6 straight times. We had just done it 3 weeks ago. I thought that was a very winnable game. So to blow that opportunity it's hard. It's frustrating for sure. So we don't know what's going to happen. We talked about it earlier, but we genuinely don't know what's going to happen. Next year, there could be a string of injuries. Heck, we didn't know COVID was going to be a thing in 2019, that it would derail a whole season. You can't predict these things. We didn't know after, 2013, that there would be a mass exodus of talent. You cannot predict these things. So we'll see what ultimately happens with the San Francisco 49ers. But to me, I think the season was a success, but it was also one that got away. I think it can be.
I like that.
Sure.
I like that. And maybe to your point, maybe that's where I'm still maybe a little too emotional about it because it's been 24 hours. Because I do think that it's fair to say there was a missed opportunity. And I think that when maybe I was down about it, and I'm down about it right now because, as you said there too, when you get to the playoffs and you have a chance to be one of those teams, the Final Four, next year is not guaranteed. It's not. And there's multiple things, as I said earlier, that could change what happens in the course of a season. Injuries are huge. And I think that's why parity is so big in football in general. Injuries change everything. I mean, we're literally talking about the Bengals and the Rams going to the Super Bowl after the Bengals won, I think, 4 games last year. And Joe Burrow got hurt. And guess what? They were able to add Jamar Chase, who's showing right now that he is possibly a generational talent. He's playing out of his mind. He's arguably had one of the best, if not the best, wide receiver rookie season just a year after Justin Jefferson statistically did the same thing. So Joe Burrow, we didn't even really know who this guy really was 4 years ago because he was the backup in Ohio State. Like, there's so much that adds to the course of a season that has to go right. And that's why, for me, I put a lot of emphasis on when you get into the playoffs, you do have to take your advantage. And this team was there a couple of years ago, so it's not like this was new territory. Maybe that's why I've been a little bit lower on being a success. But at the same time, I also have to think about Elijah Mitchell getting playing time in the course of Mostert going down. And he seems to be a diamond in the rough, as people like to say, right? Because he was drafted in the 6th round, and people are wondering, well, what's the plan with Trey Sermon? Yeah, what is the plan with Trey Sermon? Will Mostert be back? There's a lot of questions. So I have to think that Trey Sermon will be probably a part of the 53 next year. I really think he will be. But at the same time, like, I can't sit here and say that wasn't a success either. So I know in the course of the season, I've said maybe it wasn't a success, but I think I'm saying that because I look at the end goal and say, yeah, this team lost a huge opportunity, because I don't want to say I don't fear any team, but I have the utmost respect for the Chiefs. And I know that we can beat the Bengals. I've seen us do it. I think we had a great chance at beating this version of the Chiefs, if I'm going to be totally honest with you, regardless of who we played. And I went on your show just a couple weeks ago saying that I would take the field over the 49ers, but I was very high on riding for the team as well, too. So maybe I'm a little bit too emotional about it still. It's possible. And I guess it comes back to, when you look at the nuance of things, it doesn't have to necessarily be one way or another. But that's maybe why I said, the season was a failure.
Yeah, for sure. Again, maybe it's a cop out to say it's a little bit of both, but to me, it kind of is. That's just how I feel about it. I don't remember if I gave them love for this, but let me do it again if not. I gotta say, besides the jerk off that hopped in a few times, a couple of them, the chat's been jumping. Thank you guys. You guys have been throwing out some really, really good comments. Appreciate each and every one of you for watching. If you have not done so already, make sure you subscribe, hit the like. It helps the algorithm. And, go subscribe to Jamal's channel as well. The link's down in the description. We appreciate each and every one of you. Let's jump into this last topic here. Because this is it. Jimmy basically talked about it yesterday, that he's gone. He knows it. Kyle didn't want to address it, but we know what's coming this offseason at some point. How do you think Jimmy will be remembered long term by 49er fans and the faithful?
That's a great question, Jesse. And I think it's fair. I think we should, if you're being objective about it all, you don't have to think that Jimmy Garoppolo was the greatest quarterback ever. You don't have to think that. You don't have to think that Jimmy Garoppolo was the reason we won a lot of games. You don't have to think that Jimmy Garoppolo has the ability to elevate his game to a new level and still be appreciative of what he's done for this team. I'm very grateful for what he's done. He did help turn this franchise around back to a winning franchise. We're proud. This is a proud franchise. Boo. It's a proud franchise. We expect winning. I know a lot of us fans, we get really passionate. We travel really well. And I think that Jimmy Garoppolo is part of the reason the fan base has been able to travel well again. There's been a real reason for people to want to go to games. And I think since 2019, I think you're seeing a lot more fans go to games, spend money on this, to sit in the nosebleeds because they want to see this team, because the way we've been playing, the tenacity that this team has. And I think that if you're being fair to Jimmy Garoppolo, I've heard a lot of people say, he's got like this linebacker mentality. And I think that's absolutely fair to say. His grit, his toughness. Yeah, I've been one of those who expected more out of his, the plays that were set up for him, 100%. And we can bash on those plays all day. Absolutely. But at the end of the day, he has found ways to be a part of winning as well, too. And when we've had average quarterback play, which he's been able to do, we've been on the brink of winning a Super Bowl and on the brink of winning an NFC Championship game. So in that regard, I'm very grateful for what he's done. It seems to me, and it seems by the way that the players talk about him, like, I listen to that. I value what players say about a guy. And if they're saying, we all love Jimmy and, we love playing with him and they've seen a lot of success with that guy, to me, it says a lot about the dude, what he's gone through this season, having Trey, right behind him. The future's right there. All it takes is one small injury, not small injury. Obviously it wasn't a small injury. We needed to see him not be able to take the field for Trey to stay on the field, but having that guy behind you and his ability to continue to be professional, from what we've heard from Trey Lance, that he's been even a friend. Trey has already came out today saying that he thinks he'll be a friend for the rest of his life. To me, if those things are true, it sounds like Jimmy just has a good perspective, maybe on life. You know, he knows how to tune certain things out. And I think guys respect that. Guys respect how people respond to adversity. Guys respect how, you know, by adversity, I mean a 3-5 start, by having the guy drafted, you know, behind you, by being in off-season rumors, you know, whether it be Deshaun Watson, even a guy like a Sam Darnold, who I don't think is, I don't think he's better than Jimmy Garoppolo. When you have guys like that, you know, and you're getting shopped around, and your name is essentially getting dragged through the mud without being said it by the organization, for you to continue to be, you know, a professional, to be quiet and just do your job, I can respect that. And he's been a huge part in why we've been able to win games. I definitely will be the first one to say it's been a team effort, 100%. But he's been part of that, and I think that he deserves that praise.
Yeah, absolutely. Nick, we love you too, man. Listen, Ramilia Sports Report, he doesn't forget a thing. He remembers that I picked him to finish third in that division. Yeah, man, I did definitely. And there's been a lot of you guys that came in Grant's chat, came and left, Lions fans and you know, fans of all these teams, Cowboys, Eagles. None of them stood the test. And at the end of the day, your team did. Congratulations to you guys. You know, good luck to you guys in the Super Bowl, but you were the only team that did it. I think that we pretty much owned every single hater that came through that chat by the time that the season was over, and you guys were that last test, and we just couldn't finish it, unfortunately. But at the end of the day, we respect you, man. Appreciate that, and I think you've got a channel as well. So good luck to you over there. But yeah, to me, I think it's unfortunate because I think if everybody's being honest, in 2017, that he lit this fan base on fire in a good way, right? But ultimately, when we look back on Jimmy, I think that he's going to be more remembered for what I talked about, which was clutch moments, 6 of 20, 2 interceptions, and like 60 something yards passing. He's going to be remembered for that Super Bowl overthrow. He's going to be remembered for last night giving up another double-digit lead. And I think that ultimately that's how he'll be remembered. I mean, let's not forget that he started this season with a fumble. He ended the season with an interception. And I think more often than not, it's that lasting moment. And the lasting moments that we have are going to be those. It's unfortunate for him. Good luck to him with his new team. But I think that that's ultimately what he'll be remembered for.
Yeah, you know, I think. Go ahead.
Yeah, go ahead. No, go ahead.
No, I think that's fair. I think the one other thing that I would add just a little bit is, and I tweeted this out the other day, and I think it's going to continue to be a theme as we get further and further away, especially for those of us who live through it. Obviously, as we get further in the future, you know, people die off and all that. But the one thing that I said the other day is, actually, I tweeted this months ago. The Jimmy Garoppolo phenomenon is one of the craziest things I've ever seen in terms of sports, because his defenders are avid defenders, and those who don't like him are, you know, far gone. They really don't like him. But I think the truth has to lie somewhere in the middle, right? He's not the reason we win a lot of games, but that doesn't mean he doesn't do anything. And nobody, myself, you, neither one of us have ever said that. But I think that so many people on both sides that it's almost even hard to say, how will Jimmy be remembered? And when you bring a little bit of context to it, people say, oh, you know, well, you know, he was 6 of 20. You're right. He did do those things. And that's one of the, you know, those will jump out. But on the other end, you could also say, well, he did make a couple long two 3rd and 16s, 3rd and 15 against the Rams a couple years ago too. That was big too. Like, you know, those plays, they stick out a little bit. He was able to make a play on Jalen Ramsey to Emmanuel Sanders. Like, I think it's just one of those things where the truth is somewhere in the middle. And I've said it. I said this the other day. He's not as bad as some people think he is, and he also wasn't quite as good as some people had hoped he would be. And so the truth is, he's right there in the middle as an average quarterback. And I think the further we get from that, I think the more people will be okay hearing that he's an average quarterback. That doesn't mean he's bad.
No, I don't think that's far off. And yeah, who knows? I mean, you know, 10 years from now, how will he be remembered? I think in the moment, it's easier for us to point to it, and we'll see what the ultimate ending is to Jimmy Garoppolo, and maybe his next stop will help kind of solidify that one way or another as well.
Mm-hmm.
Niner Matt says, did you guys see that Ryans is staying in San Francisco? We did.
Breaking news, yeah.
So happy about that. Extremely happy about that. I think for him too, being a defensive coordinator for just a year, it's the same thing that I'm saying about McDaniel. I think it's early. I think it's early, especially for McDaniel, because he didn't call plays. Like, this man did not call plays. He's going from being an offensive coordinator 1 year, not calling plays, and then going to be a head coach. I think that's a lot. So for me, you know, I'm happy that Ryan's staying. I love him. I don't think he'll stay past next year, because I think he's going to do a great job again, and he'll be gone. But happy that he will be here. Niner by Nature says we need to get Ryan's Marshawn Lattimore. Yeah, I would love that.
Me too.
And draft that Kobe Bryant guy in the second round. We need 2 lockdown corners. Well, I mean,
Kobe Bryant out of Cincinnati.
Yeah, I think 2 lockdown corners would be fantastic. But if we got 1 to go with what we've already got, I would be very, very happy with that for sure. So, all right, let me show y'all some love real quick, and then we'll buzz on out of here. All right, y'all. Well, listen, thanks for sticking with us for an hour and a half, this therapeutic hour and a half for us to put a bow on the season. I personally will be back tomorrow with my guy, Niner Nate. We're going to be talking about just some of the future things with the 49ers, probably getting into a little bit more of the offseason talk. I'm sure that he's going to have some things that he'll want to say as well to put a bow on the season, but we'll be back there tomorrow night. Jamal, when's your next live stream?
Yeah, first of all, thank you, Jesse, for having me on. It's been a pleasure coming on and speaking with you. Always appreciate your knowledge and the way you see football. I really enjoy talking with you about that. Yeah, we'll be going live again this coming Wednesday, 6 p.m. Once again, my channel, Niner Talk with Jasper and Jamal. I am one half of the co-host. Got my other co-host with me, Jasper. So we team up. We do a similar thing to what we're doing here. We talk about the game, key moments. Obviously, we're done. Season's over. So we'll start diving into some of the off-season stuff here after we break down NFC Championship loss this week. But yeah, Jesse, thank you so much for having me on. Really grateful for the opportunity, and I appreciate the kind words that have been said in the comments as well too. Thank you guys. I appreciate that.
Absolutely. Make sure you subscribe to his channel. The link's down in the description. And subscribe here as well. If you've not done so already, just hit the subscribe button, hit the bell notification so you never miss an episode. And throughout the offseason, we're going to be going crazy hard, talking about the San Francisco 49ers, what the future looks like, breaking down prospects. So make sure you stay tapped in here. We appreciate each and every one of you. Love each and every one of you. Have a safe, blessed night, and we'll be back at it again tomorrow. Peace.